In the creation account, we find a formless void, a darkness, that God begins to form. How? By dividing between things, distinguishing between two things, and then bringing them back together in a glorified form. Light and dark, day and night, the heavens and the sea, the land and the sea. He divides them, brings them back together in an ordered, habitable way. He does the same thing with man and woman. He divides between male and female. He divides Adam into two, and then brings them back together in a glorified form. And that reunion produces life. But we would rather be barren. We would rather make ourselves barren because we want to gratify our own desire. We want to reverse the creation of the world. We want to decreate man and woman because we want to recreate them in our own image by splitting it and fragmenting it into 1,000 pieces. And that's where you get a fluidity of the modern gender conception. What does that tell you? We want to form our own pantheon. We want to become our own gods. We want to manifest our own image. We want to form our own world. So God's order in creation produces life. It is made to be fertile, to bear fruit for God. But by rejecting this purpose, by wanting to gratify ourselves and turning in on ourselves, we have become barren because we don't want the responsibility of bearing forth God's image into the world. And we have tried to reverse the order of God's covenantal divisions in creation. This is actually what happened in the flood, by the way. The reason why the flood of Noah was a fitting punishment, the reason why it fit the crime, the punishment fit the crime, is because of this very fact. Think about it. What was it that prevented the people, the wicked, violent masses, what was it that prevented them from being destroyed? It was the waters and the land being divided, remaining in division. It was the sky and the sea remaining in their own places, right? When the flood came about, the only thing God had to do was to remove the division that he had placed between the sky and the sea, between the land and the sea. By simply undoing those divisions, those distinctions, those boundaries, by simply dissolving that division that he had made, the world reversed into a state that it was in of disorder and chaos before God had formed it. And that was the flood. And the reason why it fits is because the violence and wickedness of man was doing that at a metaphysical level. Man was basically saying, we reject the divisions that God has made between good and evil. This was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God had made a division between good and evil, just as he made a division between day and night, light and dark, land and sea, sky and ocean. God made those divisions in order to create order and life for us physically, but at the same time, he created divisions between right and wrong, good and evil, in order to produce life spiritually. So when man rejects the divisions between good and evil, between right and wrong, when man dissolves that distinction, it is fitting that God also removed the divisions physically in the world that made the world habitable, that made it possible for them to sin. So it makes sense that God finally said, okay, if you're going to dissolve the divisions and distinctions between good and evil, between right and wrong, between the spiritual, the metaphysical things that really matter, you removed the boundaries of spiritual life, I will remove the boundaries of physical life, and it's a fitting punishment. And by removing the boundaries, it reintroduced the chaos of the depths, of the ocean, of the sea, of the formlessness, the void, onto the people, the wicked. So in the same way that Noah's flood was a reversal of the boundaries and order and division between the things that produce life on the earth for us, in the same way the divisions in the metaphysical realm, namely the moral realm, the ethical realm, the spiritual realm, the realm of God's commands, the realm of God's law, by rejecting those things and by seeking to dissolve those boundaries, we are asking for disorder and barrenness and death. It's no different than what happened with Noah's flood. We want to continue to live on the land without the sea overtaking us. So we want the physical divisions that God is maintaining, right? We want those to stay there so we can continue to live our lives in peace. But we have dissolved the divisions of the metaphysical, of God's law, of the spiritual reality that is the actual substance of things, rather than just the form, which is the physical. We have dissolved the divisions of God's image, male and female, in order to shape the world into our image, in order to please and gratify ourselves. So if you think about it, it actually makes sense that the rainbow is the symbol of this rebellion, because it's a mockery. It's a mockery of the covenant that God made with man, that I will never again dissolve the divisions and distinctions that I formed in the order of creation that keep you alive. I will preserve those divisions of the physical realm even if you dissolve the divisions of the metaphysical realm, the spiritual realm, the law of God, the word of God, the image of God. And so for the sign and symbol and flag of this rebellion, the dissolution between male and female, and between the union that images the reality and the life of God and his covenant with man. For that symbol to be a rainbow is the irony of ironies. It is the highest form of mockery from the spiritual forces of darkness against God. Now, I don't think that the people who champion this banner are necessarily aware of these spiritual depths and realities and these layers, but that's what's happening in the spiritual realm. So in addition to the symbol being the rainbow, it makes sense also that the watchword of this movement and of this banner is pride, because pride is the Tower of Babel. This was exactly what immediately followed after the covenant of the rainbow. The covenant with Noah after the flood was the Tower of Babel, the pride of man, forming their own confession, their own religion, their own reality. Pride is the very thing that was erected in defiance against God and his order. So everything actually fits spiritually when you think about it. This is where we have found ourselves today. We want to dissolve and fragment the nuclear image of God, which is male, female, husband and wife in union, producing life as an image of God, as the fullness and the manifestation of God's Trinitarian life. We want to reject that in favor of what? A whole pantheon of every possible gender. We are forming our own Olympus, our own mountain. We are building our own Tower of Babel because we've rejected the oneness of God in the threeness of his full Trinitarian life. We have rejected the life of God, the three in one, and we have opted instead for our own pantheon, imaging our own gods, imaging our own world. There's a lot more to say, a lot more detail. I'll share it another time. This is critical for our church to understand, to be the prophetic voice for the world. They are starving for a deep account, a rich account of the design and beauty of God and why we hold the values that we hold. We have to be able to give an account of that. So I'll talk about that in the next episode. Along with that, if you've benefited from this, I would like to do a lot more of this. I'd like to begin addressing many topics that nobody, frankly, is addressing in this way that I have seen, and I'm trying to fill that need. If this is something that you believe in, if you're benefiting from this, then I want to invite you guys to support me if you can, and I'll be able to build up this ministry and provide a lot more content like this. So stay tuned for the next video. Until then, please share this wherever you can. That would do a great deal of help. So thanks for the support, and see you guys next time. Honestly, most people who try to pretend like they have any discernment, they're like watchdogs that are blind, that are barking at every passing stranger, barking at every passing sound they hear, and they're not even guarding the right house. I'm gonna do the right thing. Let's go back and watch this in context.
And when you act, or you're an ambassador or a representative of me, when you're serving me, do not let your opinion come out of your mouth.